The final buzzer cut through the low-gravity arena like a blade. For a long second, no one moved. Above the court, the scoreboard glowed in cold white numbers that felt almost cruel in their clarity. Visitors, 94. Home, 31. The Co's Phantoms had not just lost. They had been humiliated. The visiting team leaped and spun through the light gravity, celebrating wildly. Their laughter echoed off the curved metal walls. Each cheer felt like another strike to the chest of the Phantoms, who floated slowly. As if the gravity around them had suddenly doubled, Capto Sirikar hovered near the center line, still clutched in her hands. Her copper-plated crest, once polished and proud, hung dull and loose against her head. It was an instinctive reaction, a biological sign of defeat she could not control. The crowd was already leaving. Rows of seats emptied without anger, without noise. No boos, no sympathy. Just quiet footsteps and turning backs. Indifference was worse than hatred. Sira opened her mouth to speak. Nothing came out. This was their 7th loss in a row. Their coach had died 3 cycles ago, and everyone in the arena knew what that meant. In the locker room, the air felt heavy, despite the controlled atmosphere. The ventilation fans hummed softly, the sound too calm for the storm inside the room. Old banners hung on the walls. Faded reminders of championships won long before these players arrived. Torin, the team's strongest player, slammed his fist into a locker. The metal dented with a sharp crack. "We trained for this," he growled, his deep voice shaking. "Every drill, every simulation. And they tore us apart like children." "They predicted us," said Lin, the strategist, staring down at her tablet. Holographic replays flickered across her eyes. Perfect counter-rotations. Perfect timing. They knew every move before we made it. Sira felt a tight knot form in her chest, predictable. That single word hung in the room like a death sentence. Their former coach had taught them that fluxball was elegant, that it was balance, math, and harmony. He believed the universe rewarded order, but the universe had not shown up tonight? Sira looked at her team. Broken pride, broken confidence, and worse, broken belief. The board vote was coming. Another loss like this, and the program would be shut down forever, far beyond the clean towers of the Institute. A very different kind of collapse was happening. A battered human freighter screamed through the thin red sky of Kalos 9. Warning lights flashed wildly inside the cockpit, painting the walls in angry colors. The ship spun, engines coughing and stuttering like a dying animal. At the controls sat a single human. He was old by human standards. Gray hair, rough beard, eyes tired from years of mistakes. One hand gripped the controls. The other held a half-empty flask. "Easy, easy, easy," the man muttered. The ship slammed into the ground. Dust erupted. Metal shrieked. Then everything went silent. After a long moment, the hatch creaked open. The human stumbled out, coughing, boots sinking into red dust. He looked up at the twin suns burning in the sky and let out a dry laugh. "Another perfect landing," he said. An armored vehicle approached moments later. Its engine was quiet, precise. An alien officer stepped out, tall and composed, her segmented armor dark and unmarked. "You have violated multiple airspace laws," she said calmly. The human lifted his flask slightly. "Rough day." At the local station, she reviewed his identity file. Her posture shifted. "Mac Rowan," she read aloud. "Human, former Galactic Fluxball champion. 3 titles." Mac looked away. "That guy's dead." The officer studied him for a long moment. "You will coach?" she said. He laughed. "Bitter. Hollow. I'm a gym teacher now." "You are human," she replied. "That is sufficient." That same evening, the CO's phantoms stood on their Susamshanga. This led the reptiles to adapt to their specific habitats and diversify, giving rise to many Susum habitats, and diversify, giving rise to many new dinosaur species. "You are human," she replied. Training court as a strangely broken human walked in. He did not smile. He did not introduce himself. He simply looked at them. Like a man measuring wreckage, and Sira felt a chill. Because whatever this human had come to do, it was not going to be gentle. Mac Rowan did not say hello. That was the first problem. The CO's phantoms stood in loose formation on the low-gravity court, waiting for instructions. They had expected a speech, or at least a plan. Instead, the old human shuffled past them, booties scraping against the floor, eyes half open and unreadable. He stopped near the gravity control console. "Run," he said. The word echoed. Captain Sirica blinked. "Run." "Where?" Mac pointed. "Toward the outer wall of the arena, around it." Turin let out a short, humorless laugh. "Coach, this is fluxball training. We need tactical drills." Mac finally looked at him. His gaze was calm. Too calm. "Run," he repeated. Confusion spread across the team. But authority was authority, even if it came from a tired human who smelled faintly of old metal and regret. They began to jog along the arena's edge, like gravity, making the movement feel strange and floating. Mac tapped the console. The gravity shifted. Suddenly heavier. Several players stumbled. One nearly fell. "Again," Mac said. They ran. The gravity shifted again. Light. Then heavy. Then uneven. No pattern, no warning. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Sweat formed. Muscles burned. Breathing became rough. The ball rack stood untouched at the side of the court, mocking them. "This is pointless." Torin growled between breaths. Mac sat on the bench, watching. "Good." Anger started to boil. Lynn approached him cautiously. "Coach, with respect. This does not address our problems with timing, rotation, or coordination." Mac took a slow sip from his flask, then set it down. "It does? How?" she asked. "You don't know your own limits," he said. "You just memorize numbers?" That made no sense. The drills continued. Wall sits in heavy gravity. Balance. Tests during sudden gravity drops. Running while disoriented. Players fell. Collided. Got back up. No explanations. No encouragement. By the time Mac finally called a break, several players were shaking. Sira floated over, her crest tight with controlled frustration. "Coach Rowan, our team is failing because we are predictable. We need strategy." Mac looked at her for a long moment. "You're predictable because you think strategy lives on a screen," he said. Before she could respond, he stood up. Scrimmage. Relief? Mixed with anger, as the ball was finally released onto the court. The team moved automatically, falling into their elegant patterns. Clean rotations. Perfect spacing. Beautiful flow. The defense broke them apart in seconds. "Again," Mac said. They reset. Same result. Frustration spiked. On the third attempt, as the play collapsed, Mac spoke without looking up. "Sira," he said, half a step slower. She adjusted instinctively. "Torin," Mac added. Stop curving. Torin hesitated, confused. Then charged straight, instead of drifting. The defense shifted. A gap opened. The ball slammed into the goal, with a heavy echo. Silence filled the arena. The team froze. They stared first at the goal. Then at MacDot. He had already sat back down. What was that? Lynn asked quietly. Mac shrugged. You fought the gravity? They expected you to flow with it. The realization hit hard. That move broke everything they had been taught. And it worked. Anger softened into confusion. Confusion turned into something worse. Doubt the rest of practice was rough. Moves half-worked, players argued. Old habits clashed with new instincts. By the end, everyone was exhausted and unsettled. This isn't coaching, Torin muttered as they packed up. This is punishment. Mac heard him. He did not disagree. That night Ciaro couldn't sleep. The human's words echoed in her mind. You don't know your own limits. The next morning, news spread quietly through the institute. A human was coaching the Phantoms. Students came to watch. Most expected failure. Some expected entertainment. Mac arrived on time this time. No flask in hand. Only a quiet intensity in his eyes. Today, he said, we break habits. Ciro felt a chill. Because habits were all they had left. And breaking them might destroy what little remained, or it might save them. The next morning, Mac Rowan did something no one expected. He deleted everything. The team arrived to find the main tactical display blank. No elegant diagrams. No rotating vectors. No layered formations passed down from generations of coaches. Just an empty screen. Lynn stared at it in disbelief. Where are the models? Max stood in front of them, arms crossed. Gone? Cira felt a tight knot in her stomach. Coach, those models are the foundation of our play. That's the problem, Mac replied. You're standing on a foundation your enemies already mapped. Torin crossed his arms. So what's the new plan? Mac tapped the console once. The screen flickered back to life, not with neat lines, but with jagged shapes, broken paths, and uneven movement patterns. This, he said, is chaos. The word made the team uneasy. Fluxball was never played like this. Every species treated it like physics. Motion, balance. Harmony. Chaos was failure. Opponents don't fear what they understand, Mac continued. They fear what makes no sense. Training became strange. Mac introduced drills that felt wrong. Intentional missteps. Delayed pauses. Sudden stops in mid-rotation. Players were told to almost mess up, then recover. At first, it looked terrible. They collided, dropped the ball. Missed, simple shots. Frustration exploded. Torin shouted during one session. This is embarrassing. Mac didn't raise his voice. You're learning to think while falling, he said. That's when games are decided. The first match under the new system came 3 days later. The Phantoms lost. Badly. The crowd laughed when a pass went wild. Commentators mocked the human experiment. In the locker room, anger boiled over. This doesn't work, Lynn snapped. The data proves it. Max sat quietly, listening. Then he stood. You didn't lose because of chaos, he said. You lost because you. Panjit when it showed up. The next match was closer. They still lost, but barely. Opponents looked confused. Missed assignments? Wrong reads. Whispers started by the third match. Something snapped. Torin was fouled hard. Then fouled again. Then taunted. Old anger surged. He shelved his opponent. Officials rushed in. Red light. Ejection. Without Torin, the phantoms collapsed. The match slipped away. Another loss. In the locker room, Torin sat alone, head bowed, hands shaking. You ruined everything? Someone muttered. Mac said nothing, that night. Long after the arena emptied, Mac found Torin in the weight room. The big player was dragging a loaded sled across the floor. Again and again, punishing himself. Mac sat down nearby. After a long silence, Mac spoke. I lost a championship once, he said quietly. Torin didn't look up. I had the winning shot, Mac continued, but I'll let someone get inside my head. Thought about hitting him. Thought about proving something. He exhaled slowly. The buzzer sounded. I never took the shot. Torin stopped pulling. That moment, Mac said, followed me for decades. Torin's voice cracked. I don't want to be that guy. Then don't, Mac replied. Control is strength. Chaos is just the environment. The next morning, Mac arrived early. Clear, eyed. Focused. The team sensed it. We keep chaos, Mac said. But now we add discipline. Training changed again. Chaos with limits. Aggression with control. The next match began badly. Then something clicked. An opponent overcommitted. A defender slipped. Ciro improvised. Torin held back then. Struck at the perfect moment. They won. The crowd was silent for half a second, then noise exploded. The Phantoms had beaten a upper-ranked team, barely. Ugly. Real. News spread fast. Commentators stopped laughing. Opponents started reviewing footage. And the scariest part? They couldn't predict anything. Inside the team, belief began to return out in diagrams. But in each other, still fragile, still untested. As they left the arena that night, Ciro glanced back at the court. For the first time since the season began, she felt something new, not confidence, momentum. And she knew one thing with certainty. If chaos was the lesson, the real test had not even started yet. The first thing that changed was the crowd. They did not cheer louder. They watched harder. Opponents entered much as, against the CO's Phantoms, with confidence. They left with confusion. The Phantoms did not dominate. They did not overwhelm with strength or beauty. They did something worse. They disrupted. Plays broke apart in strange ways. Defenses moved too early. Attacks stalled because no one knew where the real threat was. The Phantoms made mistakes on purpose, then punished the enemy for reacting to them. Commentators struggled to explain it. They looked disorganized, one analyst said. But somehow, it works. Inside the team, belief grew, but tension followed. Close behind, Captain Sirakar felt it first. The new style required trust. Real trust. Not trust in models or plays, but trust in people acting without permission. That made leadership harder, not easier. Lynn, the strategist, struggled the most. Her instincts screamed for order. Every broken pattern felt wrong in her bones. She hesitated more often now, recalculating when she should have acted. Ciro noticed it in small moments. A late passer missed lane. Torin noticed it too. During one practice, the hesitation caused a collision. Two players drifted helplessly into the barrier. Mac blew the whistle. Hard. Again, he said. They ran it again. Same mistake. This time, Max shut the drill down. My office, he said. Both of you. Max's office was barely a room. A storage space with a desk, 2 chairs, and old equipment stacked in the corners. Sierra and Lynn stood inside, stiff and silent. You don't trust each other, Max said bluntly. Sierra opened her mouth to argue. Mac raised a hand. I don't care why, he continued. You fix it, or I bench you both. Lynn's eyes widened. You can't, I can, Mac said calmly. And I will. The silence that followed was thick and painful. You're the heart, Max said to Sierra. You're the mind, he said to Lynn. Right now, you're fighting each other instead of the enemy. He leaned forward. Figure it out. They left the office shaken. The next few marches were close. Too close. 1-point wins. Overtime scrambles. Games that left everyone exhausted. But they kept winning. Slowly, the league changed how it treated them. Opponents stopped playing aggressively. They became cautious. Afraid of traps that might not exist. Afraid of reacting wrong? The Phantoms climbed the rankings. The semifinals arrived faster than anyone expected. Their opponent was the Karnak Brickaza Massive. Brutal team built on raw power. They did not adapt. They crushed. The arena was packed. The first half was a nightmare. The Breakers pushed hard, using their weight and leverage. The Phantoms were knocked off balance again and again. By halftime, they were down by 16 points. In the locker room, silence returned. Not the broken silence from before. A heavier one. Max stood in the center of the room and looked at each face. Look at you, he said quietly. You remember the first day I walked in? They did. You were already done, he continued. Waiting for someone to save you? Waiting for the past to come back. He met Sierra's eyes. Then Lynn's. This isn't about winning, Mac said. This is about proving you are not what they think you are. Torin clenched his fists. You outlast them, Max said. Make them chase ghosts. The second half began differently. The Phantoms slowed the game down. Drew fouls, forced mistakes. Made the Breakers work for every inch. The Breakers grew frustrated. Their strength became a weakness. By the final minutes, their massive players were gassing movements sluggish. The score tightened. With seconds left, Sierra drove toward the goal and stopped suddenly. Lynn moved without hesitation, trusting instinct over calculation. The opening appeared. The goal landed. The buzzer sounded. The Phantoms won. The arena erupted. Sierra felt her crest flare with pride as the team celebrated. Max stayed on the bench. Watching quietly, he knew something they didn't yet. This win changed everything, because the championship was next, and waiting for them was a team that understood humans far better than any alien ever had. A team led by a human coach, one who knew Mac Rowan very well. The championship was not just a match, it was an event. Ships arrived from nearby systems. Streams went live across the sector. The arena lights burned brighter than ever, reflecting off polished metal and energized shields. This was no longer about a forgotten team from a quiet moon. This was about belief, the CO's because. Phantoms floated onto the championship court under thunderous noise. Their crests were high, their movements calm. Focused. Across from them stood the Earth's sentinels. Perfectly aligned, perfectly disciplined. They did not float. They moved, sharp, efficient, exact. Every motion had purpose. Every position was controlled, and at their sideline stood a human, younger than Mac, sharper, clean uniform. Confident posture. Coach Adrian Vale. Syrah felt it immediately. They're different, she whispered to Lynn. They're human-trained, Lynn replied. Fully? Mac watched in silence as the sentinels warmed up. His jaw tightened slightly. He knew that style. He had helped build it once. Order, precision, control. The opposite of what he taught the Phantoms. The whistle blew. The match exploded into motion. The sentinels struck first. Clean passes. Perfect timing. No wasted movement. They cut through the Phantoms' defenses like a blade through air. 2 goals in quick succession. The crowd roared. The Phantoms answered with chaos. Broken patterns. Sudden feints. A messy goal that barely slipped through, but the Sentinels adapted fast. By the end of the first quarter, the score leaned against the Phantoms. Not badly, but enough. Syrah felt the pressure building. Every instinct screamed for structure. For safety. The second quarter was worse. The Sentinels began predicting the chaos. They did not panic. They did not overreact. They waited. Then punished mistakes instantly. By halftime, the Phantoms were down 12 points. In the locker room, sweat dripped onto the floor. Breathing was heavy. The noise of the crowd leaked through the walls like distant thunder. No one spoke. Finally, Syrah looked at Mac. He said nothing. Torin frowned. Coach? Mac looked at them slowly. This team, he said quietly, knows my chaos. I taught it to their coach years ago. That landed hard. They expect it, Mac continued. So if you try to out-chaos them, you lose. Lynn swallowed. Then what do we do? Mac met her eyes. You become something new. He stepped back. I'm not giving you a play, he said. If I do, they'll read it. Syrah felt her heart pound. You're leaving this to us? Yes, Mac said simply. Because this game decides who you are, not me. The second half began. The Phantoms struggled at first. A missed pass. A blocked shot. The Sentinels pushed the lead higher. The crowd leaned forward, sensing the collapse. Then, Syrah made a choice. She slowed the game, not chaos, not order. Balance, she called a simple formation. Basic, almost old dash. Fashioned, the Sentinels adjusted easily. That was the trap. On the next play, Lynn broke pattern at the last second, not with chaos, but with instinct. Torin held position instead of charging. A lane opened unexpectedly. Goal. The Sentinels hesitated. Just a fraction, the Phantoms pressed another. Goal. The Gat closed. Coach Vale stood upright now, eyes narrowed. Reset, he barked. The Sentinels tightened. Regained control. Scored again. Final. Quarter. 6 points down. The clock drained fast. The match turned brutal. Bodies collided. Fouls piled up. No one backed down. 2 minutes left. 3 points down. The Phantoms had possession. Timeout was called. Everyone looked at Mac. He did not move. He did not speak. He didn't even look at them. Syrah understood this was hers. She floated to the center of her team. We don't choose chaos, she said calmly. We don't choose order. She looked at Lynn. At Torin. We choose each other. The whistle blew. The final play began. The Sentinels formed their perfect defense. They thought they knew what was coming. They were wrong. The arena was silent. Not because the crowd had left, but because no one dared to breathe. 10 seconds remained on the clock. The score hovered above the court, glowing like a threat. Earth Sentinels, 88 Co's Phantoms, 85 3 points. Everything came down to one final play. The Phantoms floated into position. Sweat drifted from their bodies in tiny droplets, catching the arena lights like stars. Captain Zero Carr steadied herself, her crest flaring slightly as she focused. Across from them, the Sentinels formed their defense. Perfect, every angle covered. Every lane closed. No wasted movement. Coach Adrian Vale stood tall on the sideline, arms crossed, confident. This was his world. Control, discipline, precision. Mac Rowan stayed. Seated. He did not shout. He did not signal. He did not even look worried. He had already given them everything he could. The whistle blew. The ball moved. Zero passed left. Clean. Simple. The Sentinels shifted instantly, reading the motion without effort. Two defenders moved to cut off the obvious lean. Lynn received the ball and hesitated just for a heartbeat. Not because she was afraid, because she was listening too. Instinct to trust. She broke pattern not sharply, not chaotically, but naturally. A soft drift into open space that should not have existed. The Sentinels adjusted. Too fast. Too perfectly. That was the mistake. Torin did not charge. For the first time all season. He stayed still. Anchored. AWOL. The defense expected impact. Expected force. Instead. Space opened behind them. Zero saw it. She did not think. She acted. The ball whipped back to her, faster than thought. A defender lunged. Another reached. Too late. Zero launched the shot. It was not elegant. It was not clean. It bounced once off the rim. Time froze. The arena held its kuksar. Then the ball dropped through the goal. The buzzer screamed. The score updated. KOs. Phantoms. 88 Earth Sentinels. 88. Tie. Overtime. The crowd erupted into noise so loud it shook the gravity field. Players clashed mid-air, bodies colliding in exhaustion and adrenaline. The Sentinels regrouped quickly, faces tight, focused. Coach Vale's confidence flickered. Overtime was brutal. Both teams traded blows. Goals answered by goals. Fouls piled up. Muscles burned. 1 minute left. The Phantoms had possession. Again, everyone expected chaos. Everyone expected something wild. Syrah floated at the center, ball cradled in her hands. She looked at Lynn. Nodded. Once they ran, an old formation. So old, it was almost forgotten. A play from their late coach. Simple, balanced, honest. The Sentinels recognized it instantly. They moved to counter. But halfway through, Zero changed it. Not with chaos, with courage. She cut early, Lynn passed late. Torin pivoted instead of charging. 3 small decisions. 1 massive opening. The defense broke not violently, but quietly. Zero drove straight toward the goal. No tricks, no fear. She fired. The goal struck home. The buzzer ended everything. The Phantoms had one. For a moment. No one understood. Then the arena exploded. Players shouted, embraced, drifted wildly in celebration. The CO's Phantoms, forgotten, broken. Written off, were Galactic champions. On the sideline, Coach Adrian Vale removed his headset and exhaled slowly. He looked across the court at Mac Rowan and nodded once. Respect. Mac stood at last, knees, stiff eyes, glassy. He did not cheer. He smiled. Later, in the locker room, the noise faded into something softer. Something warmer. Ciro stepped forward holding a small case. "Coach," she said quietly. "We found something." Inside the case rested an old championship ring. Tarnished, worn, human. Mac's breath caught. "We traced it," Torin said. "A pawn shop, off-world. We used the fan fund." Mac stared at the ring for a long time. Then he closed the case gently. "You didn't need to," he said. "We did," Ciro replied. "You showed us how to fight when nothing made sense." Mac opened his arms. They embraced him without hesitation. In that moment, the old human wasn't a champion. He was home. Humans didn't win by being stronger. They won by teaching others how to stand when everything inside was falling apart. That was the human way.